The Flyin Lion says,
Boys, hell is real.
2023 Supporter Shield champs.
Just give me a reason to drink some Guinness in the morning.
Yeah, just a fan of the sport, you know.
I appreciate the opportunity.
It's definitely tougher to be an academy player than it is a pro.
Soccer's my favorite sport now.
The jersey swap was
my car of the week, trivia question of the week. Welcome back, everyone, to the Flyin Lion podcast. We are pumped because FC Cincinnati won their first playoff game against NYCFC. And Sam, breaking news, the Columbus Crew just lost their game. So we are super pumped to be bringing you a recap episode of this playoff game. We'll get into the second part of the episode, a little bit about our Tifo rankings on the year. We'll talk a little bit about MLS awards, and then we're going to preview that playoff game number 2 against NYCFC. Sam, how we doing tonight?
Yeah, doing great. Obviously, I think the attitude coming off, this NYCFC win, a win's a win, right? It didn't look pretty for all 90 minutes, maybe not even 45, but, I think a lot of people, out there in the MLS universe have kind of taken notice as far as like, does FC Cincinnati have their swagger back? I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I'm feeling good after this win.
Yeah, you can't be mad about it, especially in the playoffs. Like, a win is a win, and you move on. Like, as we've seen with our rivals, like, you lose and it kind of creates a dire circumstance with your back against the wall there. So definitely happy to come out with that win, no matter how it looked. We'll get into that detail here. The atmosphere, let's talk about that first. Going into this game, like a little bit of a lackluster, atmosphere, just with it being a Monday night game, 6:45. I mean, there's nothing that we can do about that.
No,
but how we respond to that, and the crowd we did have, I felt like once it got going, the Bailey was there. Like, we did have some decent chants. The Tifo was, amazing. Vamos Cincy, so shout out to the Forge. They've again killed it all year long with their Tifos. But yeah, with where we kind of missed that full crowd, I mean, it's still better than what some other teams have. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. I think based off of, last week, if you haven't checked out our TikToks, go check out our TikToks. But, somebody in the comments, probably a Crew fan, was talking about how, FC Cincinnati, is going to lose in the first round, or, we're not even going to make it out of the first round, whatever. And I was like, well, we're not going to, we might not sell out, this Monday night at 6:45, but we're still going to have more fans than the, Crew's stadium can hold, which, like you had said, we had a decent crowd, right? It filled in throughout the night. I believe the number was somewhere around 21,000. So Crew, I believe, holds 20,300 something. So even on a non-sellout night, we're still having more fans there than they are in their whole stadium.
I'm not going to act like I'm obsessed with them, because we always talk about how they're always in our DMs and always commenting on things. But watching their game tonight and seeing them lose, number one, just amazing, based on their Tifo saying, like, we've been down this road before, essentially. And then to see that their stadium wasn't even filled as well. So they got nothing riding for that, at least in the current moment of what we have going on. But getting back to the important FC Cincinnati game that we had last night, we also did see Nick Hagglund, Sam, in the Bailey, bringing that energy. It was his first time. He had a post today talking about, you'll never forget your first time in the Bailey. Now he doesn't want to sit anywhere else. Like, I think everyone can kind of echo that when they sit in the Bailey, and just that energy, especially in a playoff situation. Like, you got to be so amped up for that.
Yeah, I think what we'll see next year from Nick is he'll opt to sit in the Bailey if he wants to come in as a sub. So you'll see him run down from the Bailey if, Pat asks him to get, warming up there on the sideline. But yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Him really enjoying drumming there. I don't know how well he was drumming, it's hard to tell. Maybe a little offbeat, but I mean, the energy's there, right? And that's all you can really hope for in the Bailey.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Nick Hagglund had pulled the sword one time with like a boot on and crutches.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, he did.
So, I mean, the dude's like always down to bring it, even if he's injured. Like, he's always like getting us up. But speaking on, the sword pull, Sam, we did have Bootsy Collins pulled it. What was your thought on that?
Love the Bootsy. I know we had, what was it, last season, 2 years ago? We had the Bootsy Collins
We had a
Tifo.
Tifo, yeah.
Yeah, was that last year?
Uh, Maybe 2 years. No,
two
I think
years
it was
ago.
last year. It was
Yeah,
last year.
yeah. Well, we had the Tifo, right? So it was only a matter of time before he was going to come out and pull the sword. On the way home, we listened to some Bootsy Collins on the way
Sure
home,
did.
so we had to do it, in celebration, which was actually, I mean, brought a lot of funk to the car ride. So if you haven't listened to Bootsy Collins, give him a listen.
I'm just waiting for the guy to do the national anthem or like a pregame show or something like that. That'd be pretty
Yeah,
cool
yeah,
too.
yeah. Maybe
But
maybe not on the turf though.
yeah, true. Yeah, we need to save the old turf. The lineup for this game, Sam, the first repeat lineup of the whole season. 42 different games. First time we've seen a repeat lineup. No Pinto as a sub. We had Halsey that returned in that sub spot. Everywhere else, Sam, the same as the Philly game we had in terms of, especially in this one, Orishano and Kubo up top was the big thing. We were wondering, would we see this? Would we see different strikers for it? Kind of was like, okay, if he went with this in the final game, it looks like he's going to probably go that way for the playoff game. He ends up going that way. Ultimately, I'd say he did well with what we had seen to start. I definitely thought at certain points we could have done a little bit different with our sub patterns, and we'll get to that. Um, but what was your initial thoughts with what you saw?
Yeah, I think the lineup, I know, we had stated, there's only a couple minor things, a couple people flip-flopped, up top as far as, left or right side, but it was nice to see Pat sticking with the guys that he trusts, and going, like we had talked about in the last podcast, the most talent on the field. So yeah, I think not so much for the subs, but like you said, we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Well, yeah, and so you go into the game and you're wondering again how you're going to play this. And I really just had been hoping that our team, what we say, Sam, the first 15 minutes of the game just come out and say, screw this pattern that we've had for the last part of the season. We had given up goals in the first 15 minutes or even had conceded first in all of these games. Like, let's just come out and be dominant. We're at home, we're playing in front of our crowd for a playoff game. Like, we have to take advantage of it. And yeah, it was a boring first half, but you get 8 shots, no real like scoring opportunities, I would say. There's lots of fouls. It's kind of like a feeling out process. I really wanted to see how the team would respond compared to the last game we had against New York. It ended up being a 3-2 game. Lucha was battling some fan, shouts or chants at some point too. So we really wanted to see how that would go. And in the first half, I think it, again, was more of that feeling out process. Nobody
Yeah,
really wanted to kind of put too much forward that would leave them exposed. But we did kind of seem to have the possession advantage, especially. We had, I think, a few corners that half too, but nothing that was like substantially out of, left field.
yeah, I know we were making the comments, about how NYCFC was playing, right? And they were playing real far back, and really playing counter-attacking ball, and that was allowing FC Cincinnati to generate chances. However, weren't able to put it in the back of the net, and we'll talk about more of that later as well. But that's definitely what it was in the first half. NYCFC. I mean, they didn't make it like difficult. As far usually, you see a counter, attacking club. If they're going to sit back, they're going to make it really difficult for you. It wasn't too difficult for us. It would have been a lot easier for us had we had a bigger number nine, in the box.
Right.
Because there were, and they, I think they saw that, right? So they adjusted to that and were like, hey, we're going to let them pass in between because we know that they can't, pass or, cross it in over the top on the wings. So, yeah, I think in the first half there were some moments, but not enough for us to be like, oh, yeah. But a lot of fouls for sure.
Well, that's a good point. Well, in a playoff game, like it's going to be chippy. You just want to come out on the side of like you don't get too many yellow cards that you get yourself behind, like we did last year with suspensions and whatnot, with all of that,
Yeah,
especially
first yellow card of the game.
yeah, the Luca one was interesting. And early on too, what 28th minute or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, which can sometimes change the way that your team plays, but Luca's in a offensive position at least in this one, so maybe he's not going to get a second one as easily as some other players. I like your point though about the striker position. We really had wondered going into halftime, would Pat change it up? Because it did look like we at some points were pretty, one directional. We were just playing long balls or trying to find guys in behind. There was a little bit of loss of communication, and at some points I was wondering, like, is this truly a playoff game, or are we still trying to figure out what's going on here? But ultimately we didn't concede, and I felt the defense did a decent job with dealing with the limited chances that we had against us. But we get to half, and I was expecting at least some extra time. We get no extra time, so that kind of threw me for a loop. And we come out in the second half though, and again, kind of vintage Pat Noonan, where sometimes he can light a fire under the team. In the 51st minute, we get a goal, Sam.
Yeah, 51st minute. There's a takeaway in the midfield, which I feel like a lot of those second half goals that you just talked about that are vintage Pat have come off of takeaways where we're high press, we're, really aggressive, and we can turn the other team over. And that's exactly what happened in the midfield. It leads to Asad, pass to Orishano, to Kubo. Kubo, believe it or not, I believe that was a shot on goal that just got deflected across the goal. Luckily, our man Lucho is on the other side, pinpoints across right to Assad's face, and it hits right off his face. So I mean, it's going in the goal. But that was honestly a beautiful sequence and something that had been building all game. It felt like.
For as much kind of like, I'm not going to say gripe that I would give the forward room in this game. It's just like it was difficult for them. I would just say in some situations we didn't hold up the ball as well, but the pressing that those front people created, in this moment in the goal that we get, like you said, like it created this chance. And there's a lot of other chances that were created because of that high press as well. They actually seemed to be more coordinated than I'd seen in other games. And everyone was on the same page about marking people. So that's a good shout for that. I love the commentary that said that Lucho's like pass just ricochets off of Assad's face. Like almost to say he didn't even mean to like hit it off his head, which in that moment, it was a very reactionary type moment. Somebody had made the point that it was very similar to like a Dom Baji type header that he had 2 years ago in Orlando, if you remember that. And I think that was like perfect. Like the ball almost plays him instead of him playing the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah.
But you go crazy and you go down in the corner, you celebrate, and it was very reminiscent to me of Junior Mourinho. The way that Asad came over and was so pumped about the moment. I don't want to steal your thunder because I feel like you're going to say it later, but that he had some family members in attendance, which made a difference for Asad as well. So a very emotional moment for him. But you go up 1-0. Now, everyone in our section, Sam, was kind of funny. We're all thinking the same thing. Like, let's hold our breath because every time we've scored this year, it feels like we always have to go back and kind of check, all right, what are they going to look at this time to take it away from us?
Yeah, I know, and VAR, they kept looking, trying to find something, and I'm pretty sure I told you I was like, I think they're trying to see if Lucho was offside on that far post.
True.
So luckily VAR can't find anything. And to your point though, we got a little like complacent for a half second because then I believe like probably 5 minutes later they had that one-on-one chance with Celentano and he makes a phenomenal save to keep it or to keep his clean sheet alive.
Yeah, it seems like you build up to the goal and you're doing so well. Your offense is at least, having this counter press. You're creating opportunities though. And then you score and it's kind of like you put your foot off the pedal. And it seems to be this team in that moment when you go up, they always seem to kind of get complacent. I hate to say it. We still have opportunities after that moment, but it just creates a moment.
Do you think that's still just like because we don't have that just natural goal scorer? Like usually like
Yeah,
that's the
and
hunger of a goal scorer. Like if they get one, they're
right.
wanting to get more and more and more. Whereas we have these other guys that play these, other positions that are like, hey, great, like I scored a goal. Like
Right.
cool.
I feel like it's a lacking of confidence, more
Yeah.
than anything. Like you had, again, 22 shots and you get one goal out of it. So the chances are there. It's just not well taken. If you can make even three more of those, it's a different story. So Yeah, to me, it's a confidence thing. And you see it in Nico Giacchini's, one-on-one with the keeper. Like that's a $2 million striker who's playing in Serie A who just cannot buy a goal right now. I mean, the guy just can't do anything right. I mean, he does a lot of other stuff as a striker, but your main goal is to score there. So it kind of backs up Pat's decision not to play the guys that he did. We'll get into it now. I'll just say, like, you have four strikers on the bench to start this game in Corey Baird, Kevin Kelsey, Santos, and Nico Giacchini. So what does that say is, okay, I'm going to go with the hot hand. I'm going to go with the guys that have worked well together and can cohesively as a group do what I want them to do. And you just hadn't seen that with the other guys. And Nico kind of backs himself up from playing or, getting more minutes in this moment. It was very interesting. I felt like, Sam, though, after the goal, I wanted to just quickly mention it, how chaotic the game got.
Oh my gosh,
I
yeah.
mean, the ball was being
Yeah.
whipped around, hit back and forth. Like there was no control of the ball. I mean, Pat Noonan's on the sideline saying, calm down.
Yeah.
So the composure that we need to have when we go up, I think is directed or needs to be directed from your leaders, to say like, okay, when you get scored on, you obviously want to talk to your team, but even when you do score, hey, how do we keep our head? Stay smart. Don't make any dumb fouls. Keep your shape. And we got chaotic. Luckily, we didn't get scored on. But moving on in further rounds in the playoffs, like you have to be sharp and you can't make mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously, we've talked about Miazga being that guy, but Robinson's got to be that
Right.
guy. U.S. men's national team experience, MLS, all-star experience. Like he should be the one commanding that back, being like, guys,
Yeah.
let's chill, let's settle a little bit. Like, because at the end of the day, it all flows through the back line, right? If you want to build from the back, right, he's got to be one of those guys that has composure on the ball, which was a little iffy in this game as well, right? I know
Right.
Pat had said he had a, defender of the year type performance, and we were kind of like, at times, but yeah, I think, if you want to get into it as well, the subbing, right, late
Right.
in that game, that was part of the chaos as well, right? We're talking about subbing guys in that, need to be, composed and, whatever, or having the right subs to slow the game down. Rather, we're putting guys in positions once again that they've never played in or have experience in.
I think you're referring to Corey Baird playing in the left wing
No,
back spot.
no, I wouldn't do that.
Games on the line, possibly your playoffs. 8 minutes left in the game, and we put a guy that's played there, what, one or two times in Leagues Cup. Not really understanding of that decision. Is Murphy a better choice at outside back? I don't know. Is Halsey?
Halsey,
I mean, you have guys that can play there. So I mean, we're not in practice. We're not day to day. We don't know the fitness levels. We don't know, how these guys are going to respond in pressure moments. But yeah, I mean, ultimately we get the result. So, but it makes you question like how could this have gone wrong?
yeah,
And seeing
it
like
almost did though there
and
late
it
in the
almost
game.
did. Yeah, there was a giveaway and a mix up between Hidebe and Corey there. So yeah, to your point about that, it's like okay, you can clearly see like Cheeto at one point is tired. He's coming off of an injury to his hamstring. I why risk that? It's easy for me to say, but like there's some situations where I just feel like we need to take these moments better. And does that change the outcome of the game? Like ultimately, no, but it had the potential to. My other impressions, you talked about distribution, though. I feel like Roman has to be better with his feet. If we want to create moments in transition or with other team that's pressing against us, like he's got to be able to pick guys out. Obi's got to do the same too. You're in the playoffs. Like these guys got to be sharper and you can't give the ball away. I did feel like Orishano worked well up front. We got him more direct in front of goal, able to take guys on. Him floating with Lucho kind of as that front three with Kubo as well, that was fluid. It reminded me, similar to like we mentioned earlier before in the season, to Manchester City. Before Holland, you had that rotation, and it's hard for the defense to track that, especially if guys are drifting out wide and taking guys on. Luca, I keep saying Lucho. Luca draws a lot of defenders, which opens chances as well. So it's just taking those opportunities. My last point I wanted to just make as an impression, we lack that hold up striker. I think you mentioned it earlier before. And again, it did make us somewhat one dimensional, but I think, Sam, it leads to the next game. Maybe playing on a more narrow pitch, he's saving more of your physical guys that can kind of hog up that middle and win those balls.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, impressions for me, it was a ref show for most of the game, and I really hope that it doesn't carry into the other games. Not sure on what the rotation of the refs are, in the playoffs. I would assume that, it's kind of they stay with the same kind of teams, I would assume, but they just like rotate through. But yeah, I think, another thing that stood out to me was passing. Passing was not on point in this game. Way too many mistakes. And then you're having to win the ball back ferociously, right? Leading
Right.
to, like I know we had talked about it, like stop stabbing at the ball. That's exactly what we kept seeing. Or guys, having to track back and, have to, clip the back of their heel and then boom, that's a foul. So it was unfortunate. I agree with you. Orishano looked good up top. Having the space to work up top for him makes him so lethal. It really does. And I think we'll see more of that continuing because if it works, don't change it. So I think they were pretty good there. But what were your thoughts? I know we had skipped it a little bit. Let's go back to the red card real
Mm.
quick. Right, huge moment in the game at the end of the game during all this chaos. Right, and once again, I mean, we don't get fined for anything, so I can call it a ref show because that is exactly what it was at the end of the game. You have a red card, on, what was it? Who was it? Oh, Tavon Gray, right?
Hmm.
For the red card on NYCFC, punching Lucho in the face, and we don't even get a foul. It's just a red card.
Right. Yeah, so in the moment, like I'm looking more at, hey, we just cleared the ball out. We're trying to free up, the defense and just waiting on, honestly, for this ref to end this game because we're way past 7 minutes. I see a little bit of contact with Lucho, but I feel like the game has already been called at that point.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
you clearly see like an arm raised, but does it catch him? Is Lucho just short? Like that's not an excuse for
Well, you,
him
you
raising
see
his
you
arm.
see the fourth ref and then the sideline ref kind of like come onto the field. So
Right.
so we're thinking like, oh, game over, like
Right. Right.
whatever.
I feel
But
like he saw a clear infringement. I mean, from his vantage
oh
point,
yeah, yeah.
hey, center ref, you got to call this. But if
He
that's
went
the
up to him.
case,
Yeah,
why wouldn't you call that center ref over? Like they have the headsets. You can bring him over and say like, "Hey man, like I saw this infringement, like you should go and address this." And then of course it gets VAR checked, which if you go back and look at it, like he gets an elbow to the face, like and his jaw gets hit. So I mean, to me, like, is it a soft red? Maybe. But is it a red technically by the rule of what it
yeah,
is? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it should be. And like, okay, they lose one of their players, but this guy had an atrocious game anyway. It's not like they like would really miss him. I mean, for our advantage for next game, like I'm not mad about it for sure. But yeah, it's weird because then they get the ball back.
yeah, yeah,
So, and
yeah.
there's no explanation to why. You're at the 99th minute, you get a corner conceded, and they almost score on it. So you're even more of like, what is even happening right now?
Yeah, just blow the whistle.
Yeah, it almost tried to be the most Cincinnati ending like ever.
Yeah,
It really, really tried hard. And luckily we, pull it out. But it was very weird. Some overall kind of things that we saw. Sam, I think you put this one in here and you had mentioned about the last 3 seasons making the playoffs. The first season, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we lose? Oh, we win. We actually
we
won. You're
won
right.
Red Bulls.
We won the last 3 years in the first game of the postseason, and that first round was before the best of three series. So good shout on that. A first Asad playoff goal actually came against the Crew 2018 for Atlanta, so that's interesting. The year they won MLS Cup, so Asad is no stranger to the playoffs. That's pretty cool. And then Lucho and Roman, the only two players who have started all seven career MLS playoff games for FC Cincinnati. Yeah, I mean, in the moment that Roman needed to step up, he did. I know I kind of dogged him for his distribution, but he made the key save on the one-on-one, so I can't dog him too much.
Yeah, I know he made great save, like you said, when we needed him. Um, but I've got to do this every week until we correct it. The touches in the box, right? This
Yeah,
game we had double again the other team. So we had 36 touches in the box and NYCFC had 18.
that's
So
crazy.
the fact that we have, to your point you mentioned earlier, 22 shots on goal, right, to their 6, and not only are we getting shots, but we're also getting 36 touches, right? So we're touching the ball 36 times in their box and not putting anything on target or, anything in the back of the net.
Have chances, create goals, Sam. So, I
Yep.
mean, glad that we got the one when we did,
Second
but
balls have chances.
it's really what it is. That's really what it comes down to. Before we go to break, I got a trivia question for you.
Give it to me.
How many different goal scorers have there been in FC Cincinnati playoff history? We're talking MLS history.
Are you counting this past game?
Correct.
You thought you were gonna slide that one by me, huh? Yeah. Um, I'm gonna go. I feel like we've had a decent amount. Because Santos, Vasquez, Costa, Asad. I'm gonna go 6.
All right, Sam's locking in 6. We will tell you at the end of the episode. We'll be right back. Hey, FC Cincinnati fans. We are pumped to share our new sponsor, Peak Cocktails.
I'm sipping on the passion fruit margarita, which is so spicy and it makes me feel like I'm on the beach.
Ooh, that sounds great. I'm drinking the Blood Orange Spritz, which has a great subtle ginger flavor coming from its scientifically formulated recipe to promote exercise recovery, enhance relaxation, and support a better night's sleep.
Ryan, that's exactly why I love them. Their cocktails are designed to fit seamlessly into your health conscious lifestyle, giving you the enjoyment of a delicious adult drink without the downsides of alcohol.
Guys, next time you are looking for that post-workout drink or an afternoon pick-me-up, grab a Peak Cocktail. Visit them at www.peakcocktails.com and use the code FLYINLION at checkout to get 20% off your first order. Zach, enjoy your drink. Welcome back, everyone. We are pumped again about a playoff win. We got a win unlike another team in Ohio. So pretty pumped to be going up 1-0, going into New York. We're feeling real good about ourselves and our chances. Honestly, it's the playoffs, and whichever way you get it done, you get it done. You move on. Now we got to go and do it in New York on a baseball field, which will be interesting. But yeah, I have faith after seeing this game. Like, I feel a little bit better about seeing the team now put 2 consecutive results together. Sam, I'm going to flip it up on you. I want to hear your jersey swap before we get your card of the week.
Yeah, so jersey swap of the week. I'm gonna ride hot with my last one. I'm gonna go Yamil Asad. Back-to-back games with a goal. Him, Lucho Orashano, the Argentinian connection. I'm loving it. He also had the most touches for FC Cincinnati, had the highest percentage of passing with 93%, so he was efficient. And then defensively also getting it done. He had the most interceptions I know throughout the game. We're looking at him going, oh my gosh, like he just, intercepted that, another pass, another pass. It felt like he was a DB out there. But another really cool moment. Carter Chapley tweeted out. Ryan had mentioned it earlier. Emil Asad was telling him, his parents flew in for the match from Argentina. It's the first time they've seen him score in a very long time. So very much like a heartfelt moment and really capped off like how great of a game it was for him.
Yeah, great shout. Love that he has like playoff experience in the MLS, and that Asad hopefully is catching back onto the form he had in Leagues Cup, because he was really on a heater. But I mean, like you said, 2 games in a row now. He's had goals. He almost had one earlier on in the game too, to be honest. His expected goals, Sam, were highest in the team with almost 1 goal, but he did have the goal, so it makes sense.
9.99.
Yeah, exactly. But I felt like Yamil has been a nice plug at the left wing back spot to free Orishano up higher.
Yeah.
So it's kind of allowed Pat to say, okay, sure, I'll put him up there. but you're not losing anything. And really in this game, I think I mentioned it to you. You have more like out and out like wingbacks with Yamil and with Yedlin at first and with Powell there. So I felt more comfortable about the defense whole and whole. And to again free up Orishano, which was my jersey swap of the week. I felt like Luca just killed it. He had 5 shots on the game. He had one unbelievable dribble that he took 60 yards, cut in on the defenders, hits the bottom part of that side crossbar, but just an unbelievable run for him. And he had how many of those chances, on the night? I felt like the few corner opportunities he had, he did well with his service. And I'm still trying to figure out why we don't utilize him more on free kicks and on corners.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to start a petition out there, I think Ryan would be the first one to sign that
I'm there.
for Orishano corner duty. But yeah, Ryan, I believe one of those chances you almost had an Olympico.
Sure.
I think what Zach had said it right next to you. He was like, "Hey, watch this Olympico," and it was pretty close. It was a good save by Freeze there, but yeah, I think Orishano up top, like we talked about, just him having a lot of space to work with him, like it's like Lucho, right? Like the more space that Lucho has, we see how Pat's able to utilize him. He starts, in the middle and he'll pull him out wide so that way he's able to kind of work inside both ways, right? Because they're lethal. 1v1, you do not want to be a defender against those two guys.
The way that he's been playing and beating defenders, like I almost trust him on the dribble, almost even more honestly than Lucho right now. Like I hate to like admit that because Lucho's just such a magician,
I
but
would I would say because Orishano's getting the shots off, whereas Lucho's
yeah,
still trying to dribble through the traffic. I think that's what we're looking at right now.
the difference between them though is like Lucho can beat those guys and create for the other guys. If Orishano can do that and he's doing more of the shot, but maybe he draws defenders and leaves somebody open and he can slot it through to them. I think
Hmm.
that's his next level in development. And to really own his position is really what I would say as well. He did on the night and he looked really, really comfortable. If you can pair him, Kubo is serviceable there, but if you can pair him, like I told you during the game, with an out and out nine that like just destroys people in the air, it frees Orishano up even more. Imagine if you had that big physical guy and Orishano can now drift around like Lucho does.
That's
That's
the
deadly.
hope, right? That's the hope that the Kevin Kelsey that we saw when he first entered the MLS comes in play, for the playoffs here, and
True.
we kind of have that, right? To where we have a dominant number nine, and then Luca could play off of him.
Yeah. And he showed up in a big way. He was apparently playing in his flu game. He woke up and
Yeah,
was not feeling well on the day. So shout out to Orishano for finding a good form in this one. Hopefully he can get healthy for Saturday because we'll need him. On the flip side of things, though, card of the week, Sam, let's hear it.
card of the week. I mean, I'm always, coming after people that don't respect FCC, but I think the fact that the narrative out there has been that there's just now a path to the cup for FC Cincinnati rather than, there's always been. So Tom Bogert and some other people via Apple TV are saying, maybe now there is a path for FC Cincinnati. Like they're treating us like we're a seven, 8 or 9 seed, right? And like I said, there's always been a path for us for the cup. We were the third seed. It's not like we're some team that's miraculously won this first game. We've have the talent to do it. We're gonna be able to do it. There's always been a path, and so I am declaring this. You'll see FC Cincinnati win this next game, and then there's going to be a lot of those same people jumping on the hype train, especially since Red Bulls just now beat the Crew. So now they're going, oh well. I mean, FC Cincinnati is looking really good, and da, 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 da. Like, guys, let's not change up the narratives here.
Yeah, I mean, look at form earlier on in the season. I mean, we've definitely shown like we can be the best team. It's just staying consistent. And
Yeah,
his key word in looking at his tweet was there is a legitimate path to the MLS Cup. Like you can leave out the legitimate part. Like
I
I
believe
feel
I
like
believe he added some other stuff too, like without
right,
Miazga, without a number nine,
yeah.
like all this other stuff, and it's like, dude,
Which I I'm not gonna lie, like I kind of appreciate putting it into context for people that aren't like understanding of our situation to say like, look at what we're doing without these people.
Yes. Yes.
But now he's saying, okay, like look at what we've done or have been able to do even without that. A credit to the GM for again putting together the roster. We didn't even really shout it out too much, but Teenage Hidebe, Sam, how about him having a game? I felt like he was very, very serviceable in that left center back role. Did have, a few giveaways here and there, but ultimately, like, pretty solid. And at one point, I remember you even saying, like, shades of Yersin Mascara
He did.
on
He
his
did track
track
back.
back.
He tracked back really well down the sideline. I believe
What about a
towards the
scissor
goalie at
kick
some
earlier
point.
on in the
Yeah,
game?
scissor kick. Yeah, I mean,
What about the header that cleared the ball from the goal? So, I mean, I know you're thinking in your head, like, did he really have? He did. He had a good game.
he
I felt
did.
like
He
he had a
did.
pretty good game.
He did.
So, I mean, that's a scary back three if you can really get them all to gel together. And in
Yeah,
the last few games, like they've done that. For teenage, at least in the past month, it had been fitness. And it seems like he's finally, hopefully, back up
he's
to that.
definitely fit. Yeah.
He played what, all 90 minutes, I think, in this game. So
Hmm.
that's the path forward. Now, can he sustain it? Okay, and maybe a traditional like playoff situation where you actually play games and it's over a month, not over like 3 months, like the MLS. So maybe there's some advantage for us that the games are a little bit spread out that way.
I didn't think I'd ever hear you say that.
I didn't think about it either, but maybe it is helpful in his situation. Sam, my card of the week comes in the form of the other Cincinnati sports teams did not give FC Cincinnati any love or luck, for their playoff run. Typically, like the Bengals make it to the playoffs and FC Cincinnati or the Reds. Hey, good luck, for your playoff run, all for Cincy. Um, FC Cincinnati's account posts a photo of the Reds billboard that says like good luck. But if you go to the Reds Twitter account or Instagram, nothing. No support there from any of the other teams for a playoff run. I mean, when's the last time the Reds were in the playoffs? Come on. I mean, you got to support your other Cincy teams. Like, I know maybe it was just a lapse in PR or maybe their interns are off right now or something, but it's ridiculous. I mean, this is a big deal. This is a legitimate playoff team in a major sport in the US. Your other team's got to support.
Yeah, I would say if you did all the work to put it on the Jumbotron, then that graphic is definitely ready to go for social media, and
Thank you.
all you got to do is hit post, right? It's as easy as that. So I think that's a little ridiculous that FC Cincinnati actually had to put like pretty much can wish themselves good luck almost on their own accounts. Yeah, wish there was a little bit more cohesion with those teams. And maybe it's jealousy, really.
Yeah, maybe. In years past, if I remember correctly, like they did at least
They
show
have,
some
yeah, they
love.
have. Yeah,
And some of the players
like
have
I
been to
know
the
like
game,
on
and
certain posts like 513 day or
oh yeah,
anything like that, right? But
it's
yeah, first
unfortunate.
first laps we've seen, we're gonna jump all over it.
There's still an opportunity. I mean, we're going to our second game. Like, wish us luck still. Does it take us to go to the MLS Cup for them to say something?
I mean, if we win it, I'm hoping they'll say something at that point, right? Come on.
Don't understand. I mean, we won a trophy last year, and it wasn't even like headline news in the city. So it's ridiculous. I want to ask you about your favorite tifos on the year. So to kind of recap,
Yeah.
we had Esta Ciudad is too familiar. So early on in the season, our city is your family or our family. So that one was a awesome one. It was a giant heart um, spread over the Bailey. I don't think we used the rigging for that. You had Junk to Javit, We Triumph, which was reference to the Pride. And then you'll never leave Sin City. So that was the Columbus Crew, Hell's Real. And then Vamos Cincy for the playoff game, Sam. I want you to rank your tifos this year.
Those, I mean, let's just give flowers to all of them because this season has been the best tifos that we've seen, from FC Cincinnati, throughout our, time in the MLS and even USL days.
I
So
second that.
it's been fantastic. So to rank my favorite tifos so far this year, we'll go 4-1. Fourth is going to be the Familia. We're gonna go with that one just because there wasn't rigging, there wasn't, anything special with that. And then the third, I'm gonna go with the Jung de Javant, the We Triumph one is third. And then actually Vamos Cincy. I'm gonna have that one as second,
Whoa.
and I'm gonna make Sin City, You'll Never Leave Sin City number one.
Okay. I think
Just
actually I go ahead.
you agree? You agree?
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. The coordination on the blue and black, was
Yes.
really, really
That I
special.
mean that sells it for me, right? Everybody
Yeah.
doing their part.
Now, why can't we make the
Obviously,
whole stadium do that?
yeah. I
We've
mean,
seen it in other markets around the league where, if you have a poster, at your seat, you
yeah,
hold it up.
yeah.
I think that's an easy thing for people to do. One kind of other gripe that now it's coming back to me is like you have this home playoff game. We did it for the LAFC game. We gave
Oh
out
yeah,
flags.
yeah. Okay.
Why don't we give like rally towels or flags out for a playoff game?
I saw some people bring back the flags from the LAFC game, so that was nice to have, some of those out. But yeah, I mean, no giveaway, no nothing.
It's a
Um,
little strange.
very, very strange. Kind of unlike them. I know, what was it? Zach got a boot, right? And they were handing out boots pretty much, being like, "Hey, please take the boots because we're getting new designs next year." So that's something that we'll probably talk about in the off season. But I think from this Vamos Cincy Tifo, Ryan, I will say, as much as I do like, Sin City is number one for me. However, this was the best font choice
True.
of a tifo that we have ever seen. The Vamos Cincy with, kind of just like shadow outline, like very cool contrast with the orange and blue as well. I thought that was very well done.
It's become like a mantra for the fan base, and it started with I think Barrial, honestly, and how he would say vamos, and everyone kind of jumped on board. But yeah, I think the font choice, the detail in the Roebling Bridge,
Yeah, absolutely.
even the color, we've really gone with the black and blue this year as much as the orange.
We
Think
talked about
about
it. We talked
Sin
about it before the
City.
game.
Yeah. So, I mean, how cool would it have been? Like Sam is kind of alluding to, we talked about a black jersey, for the playoffs, to kind of reference like fall's coming, it's getting darker sooner. Um,
Spooky hours.
yeah, I mean, how cool would that be? I'm still kind of upset that we didn't get that third jersey. You've heard us talk about it so many times if you've been listening, but we really want it. I think next year we're in line for, I believe, an orange jersey. I think we had concluded, right?
Blue.
Oh,
Blue.
yeah, that's right. Another blue one.
Blue.
Another blue jersey coming next year, but a playoff edition would have been really special.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
we want to hear from you guys, though. Let us hear your rankings for Tifos this year, and what you thought. Let us know if you agree with us. Some other news that came out this past week, we did have a couple of very interesting things happen in the national media. Luca was nominated for Newcomer of the Year in the MLS. Because this has become such a popularity contest and the MLS is trying to fight for clicks, Luis Suarez is probably going to win this award, but Luca Orshano deserves it. He's come in and had done very, very well this year. Should be, in my opinion, a best 11 MLS player. Again, he probably will not end up being that, and I think Lucho probably will be. But Luca,
Could
I
be.
mean, how do you deny him from that spot with 17 goal contributions in his first season? The other one, Sam, the former MVP of the league last year, doesn't even make the top five for nominations, even though he's got tied for the most goal contributions on the year, the most assists on the year, the most goal winning contributions on the year, the most chances created on the year. One guy on the list, Benteke, his team didn't even make the playoffs. Evander, okay, he's got the most goal contributions with Lucho. His team's what, eighth in the playoff standing, and they get knocked out in the preliminary game. So what are we doing? I mean, there's two players for Miami that are in the debate. And how do you decide who's the best player in the league if both are on the same team?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know we were talking about that for a very long time. If we're sitting down and we're defining, here is what the most valuable player is. This is what the award is, right? To your team, you take this player off, what does that do to the team? And we have seen, right? You take Messi off the team, they still win. They're
Right.
fine, right? So he can't be, as valuable as you think. And then you have a guy like Suarez. Like, how is Suarez on the same list as Lucha or as Messi? Like, you can't have two MVPs on a team. That's just not like by definition, that is not possible. So, like you had said, not even including Lucho is a huge slap in the face. And I really hope like this, kicks Lucho into gear,
For
throughout
sure.
the whole playoffs. If we do end up, playing against Miami, I hope this is kind of like some juice to be like, all right, I deserve to be there. I had more goal comps than I did last year when I won it, and I'm not even in, the top five. Like that's
Let's be
ridiculous.
honest.
And
Everyone in the league knows he's in the top five.
oh, 100%, 100%. I mean,
Everyone
he
knows.
gets talked about, right? Nowadays, he's getting the respect that he deserves because he won the MVP, he put people on notice.
Yeah.
And the fact that, it really does suck because the writing is on the wall for newcomer of the year with Luca, being in nomination for that. If Suarez is nominated for MVP, and he's also nominated for newcomer of the year. What do you think he's going to win? He's going to win at least one of them, right? So he's
Yep.
probably going to win newcomer of the year, and he doesn't deserve it over, arguably a guy like Orshano who's been able to, like we talked about last probably two episodes, he's been able to facilitate and, play these other positions, play up top, 17 goal comps, like you said. It's it's unfair.
Popularity contest, Sam. It's what it's coming down to, and it's ridiculous because these guys absolutely deserve it. I hope, like you said, it lights a fire under Lucho, and he takes it in a positive way and says like, "Hey, look, I didn't get this nomination, but I'm gonna play like the MVP." And in this game, he gets an assist. He's now
Yeah.
got 3 goals, 3 assists in those 7 games that you mentioned earlier on in the episode for FC Cincinnati in the playoffs. We look for him to have a big role in playoff game number 2. This Saturday, it's coming at 5 p.m. at City Field. Again, we're going to be playing on a baseball field. So how does that change the way we play? To me, I wonder if the striker position stays the same. Like knowing Pat and historically, like he's going to roll out the same people. But one question would be, is Yedlin healthy? So who do you start at that right wing back spot? Do you put Orishano there? And are you forced to kind of put like a Kelsey or one of the other forwards in that position? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I mean, up top, I know as we were walking out, we were talking, did Pat save our big number nines like Kelsey, for example, for this next game to be able to kind of just, you know, ground and pound, lay it into him up top, really play, a different style the second game. But like you said, with the Yedlin impact, I think Pat will go with the same type of lineup. However, I would argue that he'll put Powell there on the
Hmm.
right side, because he looked good. He looked really good, coming in at halftime for Yedlin. And I think there's good chemistry in the back line there with Powell instead of, mixing it up, right? If Oroshano's
Right.
killing it up top, being able to make space, you don't want to take him and put him back down there because then there goes your progression. And if you try to go back to that formation, it's going to take a game or two to get him back in the flow of things up top.
I just kind of push back on the sense of like if you're going to play on a narrow field, like your space technically is going to be on the width if you do even have that. If you're jammed, packed, and it's a narrow field and not as big as typically, then does Luca really have that space that we saw in this past game? So maybe he does see that as an opportunity. That's my only kind of thing
Oh
that
yeah,
I'm pondering.
yeah,
And it's a very interesting kind of talk too, because if you look at it, our right wing back is out. Their right wing back is out, or right back. Tavon Gray is out with that red card. So maybe that is an area to exploit, and he sees that as that opportunity. Luca has been notorious for making people look silly. So something to look out for. I think this game is going to come down to probably another like 1-0 game. I think we're going to pull it out, but it's going to be a knockdown drag out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go based off of what you said as we were leaving the game. I thought I'll take that, but 1-1 win in PKs.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be huge for Roman. Building confidence, moving on in the playoffs that way too. I would hate it to watch as a fan that way for it to go to PKs, but yeah, I'm excited for it. It's not a 6:45 game on a Monday. It's finally on Saturday. Like, why couldn't we do this for this past weekend? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think otherwise we're looking pretty healthy, pretty good about it. We're feeling pretty solid. I feel like our defense again is on the ups. And can we take advantage of those chances, those opportunities? It does allow for us, if it is more of a narrow field, to kind of bunker in with the defense that we have. And you just need better communication kind of through the spine and organization. If the other team, in this game, like you mentioned, they were playing more defensive, they're going to come out and be more offensive. So
Yeah.
how can we respond to that early onset of chances will really dictate, how we do in this game. But definitely feeling better again than another team up north in Columbus there. So yeah, I'm feeling positive about it. I think we do get a win and we move on. We get another week off. And what if we win this game on Saturday? We'll have like a full month off or something like that. Ridiculous, which is just crazy, which can be a blessing or a curse. We can get into that if it does come to that. But do you want all that time? Do you want your guys playing meaningful games?
At that, no,
Sure.
I mean, we've talked about it at that point in the year. You want to go, you want to get to the cup,
It's
you
true.
want to have the momentum, you want to keep
Yeah.
playing. It's really unfortunate that we've got to go through this.
Yeah, and like, do some of our players get called up to international breaks during that time too? Like, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's just kind of the nature of what this playoff, setup is.
Mhm.
But first things first, let's get that win on Saturday. I really feel like if you look at it compared to last year, you kind of dominated at home. Obviously, the scoreline was better last year. You go to the second game and you play in New York, you do go to PKs and you win, right? I don't think we did get that third game. So it's kind of a very similar scenario in a lot of ways. Hopefully, there's no pizza box incidents in the hallway or anybody entering the referee's room. Um, all jokes aside, seriously, guys, don't do that. We don't need any suspensions. But Sam, trivia question in closing here before we go. So, how many different goal scorers have there been in FC Cincinnati playoff history? Sam had correctly guessed 6 playoff scorers. So you have Lucho, Barrial, Vasquez, Bupenza, Mascara, and now Yamil Asad. So good job,
Let's
Sam. You
go.
nailed it.
There we go.
You
Love it.
understood the
Love it.
assignment this week.
Yeah, if only Kenta could see me now, right? Isn't that
You got your redemption for it. Yeah, 6 different goal scorers though. I thought Lucho definitely had a more of the bulk of it, but
Yeah, yeah,
we had
yeah.
other guys that have stepped up. If you look at that list though, I mean, I mentioned
Vasquez probably has at least 2 or 3, right?
uh, yeah, I mean, out of the 6 people, only 2 are on the roster right now that have scored in playoff games for us. So I definitely think there's a Kubo moment out there. I know obviously last year guys scored in PKs. I'm not counting that.
Yeah.
But from the run of play, like we're going to create chances. It's just about finishing them. And I feel like it is not hopefully a repeatable thing from what we saw in the last game. Any final thoughts from you?
I'm just excited to get back into soccer and on a Saturday, right? I think that's the biggest thing. But at City Field, like you said, I'm very interested to see how Pat goes about the lineup, right? And like the narrowness of the pitch and like that's like nerdy, soccer stuff
Oh,
that
for
we
sure.
live for, right? And
Right.
love the insight. Like what was, he thinking through this process, stuff like that. So excited to see, when the lineup comes up. Obviously, we'll have an opinion about it when it does. So hopefully we get 3 points and get a month off, I guess.
It's kind of weird to say that, but again, it's better than a third game. I totally agree with that. So We will see you guys next week. Thanks again for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and